Yes, it's another edition of the Irie 98 podcast. Yours truly, Rusty G here. I have very, very, very special guests in the place. I have Zach from Lindo's. I have Sara from the Bermuda Diabetes Association. And we are talking about the Lindo's to Lindo's Big Bad 10K. I'll call it the Big Bad 10K.
It is a big bad 10K. It is.
It's been around for a while, right?
It has been around for over 25 years, I think,
Yeah,
right?
we pulled up a 25-year.
The original Lindo's race was not Lindo's to Lindo's because we weren't at both locations.
Right.
So it used to be a track around Lindo's, Devonshire.
Okay.
And then in 1992 or 1993 is when we acquired Lindo's Family Foods where it is now. And then the race began running from Lindo's Family Foods in Warwick down to Lindo's in Devonshire, but you got to go up Collector's Hill and Chaingate.
Yeah, that's why I call it. That's why I call it the Big Bad.
Race. That's right.
Kind of a big bag walk when you come up Brighton Hill. So the walkers have to finish that walk coming up Brighton Hill.
Yes.
And that's no small picnic either.
That's right. That is the exciting end that you get from
You-
either running or walking.
You're going to hurt,
Yes, there's going to be some suffering, but it's all
but
good.
with pain is gain.
We're not selling this very well. Let's start from the very beginning. Let's start from the
We
beginning.
love it. With
This is-
pain is gain, and there's tremendous community. I mean, it's so wonderful to be here. And Zach and I, really, it comes to this time of the year, and there's a lot of work that Lindo's put in, and we're grateful to them. But selling it is the community spirit behind this walk that gets everybody from Lindo's to Lindo's, whether you're walking or running, is phenomenal. And the engagement we have from the community and what it means to both of us to be, uplifted and upheld in our mission. And we can feel that energy on the walk and the run. And it's a fabulous event.
Yeah, it's an amazing sight when you see 1,000 people lying up outside Lindo's Warwick.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely,
that parade,
absolutely.
marches down Middle Road, down through the lights and down to South Road and up,
Sea of
So-
T-shirts up Rural Hill and
Yeah,
then
it's
along, and
amazing.
it filters out kind of on South Shore. And we've always, encouraged people to come out. It is a bit, even that distance, Lindo's to Lindo's, gets a lot of people. And, look forward to the explanation of obviously what physical activity means for all of us, for wellness, for diabetes, for managing any kind of health. It makes you feel better, though. I mean, think what we're really focusing on. Doesn't walking and running and getting out in nature really for mental health, for our stress, for the way we're kind of coping each and every day? It's a wellness event, more than anything,
Mhm.
and it's a partnership which has certainly meant a lot to the Bermuda Diabetes Association.
Right. And so I wanted to start with the event taking place on March 9th.
Yep.
So if you're
Sunday,
interested in
March the 9th.
signing up, you go on to Bermuda Race Day World.
RaceDayWorld.com. At the moment, because we are a couple of weeks out or a few weeks out at the moment, you'll have to hit show more events, and eventually you'll get to March 9th and you pick the Lindo's to Lindo's and sign up.
Okay.
So it's all, it's an easy process. It's all online, and you just fill out the form and off you go.
Yeah, and people that are doing kind of like, this is the time of year where people are doing a lot of different running and walking events as well. So they should be pretty familiar with that platform.
Without a doubt.
And
Without a doubt.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to do it this year.
Well,
I'm going to do it
that's
this year,
right.
guys.
And then if you do this one, usually the runners are using this as a gauge to find out where they are for May 24th.
Yes.
So
correct.
it's a good little 10K right before that May 24th event coming up.
So I think that is a point where you decide, am I serious? Am I actually going to be doing this? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Because if you can handle the 10K, technically you can
Yeah.
go a little
absolutely.
bit further,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
though it's like double the distance. That's a whole nother conversation.
And it's a walker's timeline for the middle to end or end to end training. So, coming up Butterfield and Vallis and
Gotcha.
the Powell's Walk and the Lindo's Walk. And I know for a lot of people who are getting their walking shoes on and getting fit and getting, just getting a good walk in preparation for,
Right.
which is usually in May, the end to end. So
Right.
it's on the schedule, as Zach knows. And we certainly encourage and are grateful to those people who do go out and participate in these charity events. And there's a run of them coming up in the start of the year, January, February, March. And then she starts to get warm in July and May, June, July, August. But, so
Right.
it's a lot of it there. Some people prefer to go out and walk on their own, but a lot of people really pull together for the sense of community, family, health, support. And in this walk, as I said, it has a lot
The
of meaning for a
support,
lot of people.
the support from the community is outstanding.
Mhm.
That you would get that many people turn out for Bermuda Diabetes on that day. It always shocks me when, like I said, when you see that many people lined up.
Well, it also tells you how many people in our community, diabetes affects, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single person that I know of that doesn't know somebody that's been affected by it in
Wow.
some way, shape, or form, So,
You're talking to the right person over here. She probably knows all of them.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, if you can tell us a bit about, because part proceeds of this is going towards your association, the Bermuda Diabetes Association. So can you tell us a bit about the work that you're doing on the island, and give us some insight into?
Yeah, I mean, it's I got sort of as Zach said, that tingles, because it is about empowering those with diabetes to live well, and support is everything in managing diabetes. For a lot of people, particularly, and Zach knows well, I'm passionate about living and helping families who live with type 1 diabetes, where this condition is every day, every single day, and it's relentless in terms of decisions people need to make. We think we really want to get a grip, and I think there's still a lot of work to be done in Bermuda in gathering hard evidence on the numbers in Bermuda. But when we think that that probably likely is close to 8,000 people in Bermuda in some way are affected
Really?
with diabetes, the percentage, we are well above the global average, with estimate 10% of the world living with diabetes globally. 10 years ago, in 2014, the Steps to Well Bermuda survey looked at potentially the incidence of 13%. So 10 years on, we're higher than that. And that
Wow.
statistic didn't include people with pre-diabetes.
Okay.
So type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, women with gestational diabetes and pregnancy, which is a risk for developing diabetes later. The work that we do at the Bermuda Diabetes Association is relentless. We will go on until making sure that everybody in Bermuda living with diabetes, obviously a huge element of our work has been preventing diabetes, because there's an element to type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes that we want people to feel prevention is possible. But yeah, the association has been around for 41 years. We in 1979, 1980 established as a charity, primarily at that point as a charity supporting those with type 1 diabetes. And then the epidemic of type 2 diabetes sort of over the last 4 decades.
I was going to say, can you break down for folks that may be listening, and even myself, the differences between
Would love
type
to.
1 and type 2?
I am always so grateful of an opportunity to point that out, because and I've been privileged to be meeting and working with people with diabetes for over 30 years, and there is such a distinction. Type 1 diabetes has been around and referenced from biblical times, and talking of sweet urine. The body in type 1 diabetes, we have an organ called the pancreas, which makes a phenomenally useful hormone called insulin. And insulin is the hormone which transports glucose or sugar into our cells, to which our body uses it for energy. So it's pretty critical. We need that insulin.
Right.
When we go to Lindo's and we get a loaf of bread or a bag of apples, and that food is broken down into glucose. That glucose is not a bad thing. We need sugar to get into our muscles for energy. And what facilitates that is insulin, which is produced by our pancreas in response to a meal which contains sugar. In type 1 diabetes, an autoimmune attack happens on the body. So that means, translating that down, is that the body's own cells attack and destroy the insulin producing cells in the pancreas, and they will never make insulin again.
Okay.
So someone with type 1 diabetes has done nothing to cause that. It wasn't, trick or treat sweets, eating too many candies. And many people living with type 1 diabetes, never had a sweet tooth, or never, eaten
What's
much.
so do you have the number of people with type 1 compared to the number of type 2?
Exactly. I mean, so type 1 diabetes, where being on insulin for the rest of your life is the management. Insulin is not a cure for type 1 diabetes, but insulin keeps people alive.
Got you.
And in
So it's a necessity.
Absolutely.
At that point,
So when you're diagnosed and your blood sugars are extremely high, and the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes is made, and someone starts insulin immediately. Now, how they take insulin may change. Right now, I've seen in 2 or 3 decades of my training, phenomenal to see. We've got insulin pumps and glucose sensors and things that almost through technology.
That's just recent.
This is
major.
3-5 years ago. I now have people with type 1 diabetes who I put training devices where there's a glucose sensor that tells you what your glucose is, and then communicates that information to a pump which releases insulin.
Yeah, so
it really is
seem like amazing steps in
change.
technology to change.
30, I mean, Zach and I aren't old enough for that, but 30 years ago, and coming back, It was cool to put an insulin in a pen and out of a syringe, so you weren't drawing up a syringe,
Right.
and it was in a pen, and that was cool. And then we had blood glucose monitoring, which was 5 seconds. You
your
waited
finger.
for a drop of blood
Yeah.
rather than from testing urine. So advances are huge, and do I think that there will be phenomenal things in the next 5 to 10 years? Yes, and I do believe passionately that people with type 1 diabetes potentially will see a cure.
Okay.
And type 2 diabetes is a completely different animal. That is not insulin. Your body is still making insulin. So in type 2 diabetes, we're dealing with insulin resistance over
Gotcha.
time through a genetic predisposition, through, maybe you were an athlete or a walker and you've broken your leg, so you've been inactive for a year or so. Maybe you've gone through a stressful period in your life, lost a family member, divorced. So that stress, weight gain, lack of activity, genetics, it's very complicated, absolutely multifactorial, which is why diabetes stigma needs to address all those factors. But type 2 diabetes develops from insulin resistance. So
Okay.
we don't necessarily need to take insulin. We might need to take, pills or medications, or some people in extremely high glucose levels and glucotoxicity may need insulin at the beginning, but they can often come off insulin. They are not insulin. They're making insulin. So type 2 diabetes is always 90 to 95% of a country's population are living with type 2 diabetes. 5%
Gotcha.
are living with type 1. So it's always been
Is
the
that
underdog.
number right for us as well?
Absolutely. So we look at probably less than 250 people, certainly less than 200 to
So
300
you
people
haven't
with
seen
type 1.
you haven't seen like an increase in the type 1
Globally,
diabetes?
there is an increase.
Yeah.
That yes, absolutely. Globally, although the projected, we've talked about it for a decade or longer, of the pandemic or the epidemic of type 2 diabetes globally, and as countries become more westernized, looking out in Africa and Asia and Europe and in not so much, but in India. So I'm thinking in those developing countries where the projected amounts of type 2 diabetes in the next few years, and that's as Western culture creeps into those countries and their culture and diet and lifestyle changes. We're seeing a higher incidence of Bermuda's, again, looking at our demographics, where, genetics, we're a small genetic country, like it or not, we're not a lot of us clinging to this rock. So genetically, we have a predisposition for diabetes, which has ranked us as higher in terms of numbers in that
Got you.
proportion.
Because it's being
Because
passed down.
because
Right?
passed down, it really is. I always say genetic loads the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. So you have type 2
That's a good one.
diabetes and genetics. Yeah,
Like
so
that.
I can do something about that. I can make sure that I take those risk factors that are controllable, not the ones that are uncontrollable. Yes, my grandparents had it, and we mean first degree relative grandparents, parents, sisters, siblings. But I can, make sure I'm physically active. I can get my physical every year. I can have my fasting glucose levels checked. So we're trying to give people the education they need to make prevention possible. In that child that shows up in an emergency room with a blood sugar of 700, newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, nothing we can do to prevent that. There really isn't. But we, are here to support those families with top-notch in levels of what's education around the world. I'm proud to say we've got it here in Bermuda. If there's medication around the world, if there's an insulin pump around the world, I've gone and got training for it. So we've got it back here in Bermuda, and we can thank really, that through support and what Lindo's does for us every year, making those things possible. So about 250 people type 1, 200, 300 people with type 1 diabetes, probably, the
And
rest of it,
you're saying
8,000 is
8,000. Yeah.
yeah. So we've got,
Significant.
2, 3, and if you think about, children, type 1 diabetes is one of the most obviously common illnesses in childhood and teenagers. And we probably have about 20, 25 young people on the island living with type 1 diabetes. So they're going to school every day with an insulin pen in their lunchbox, and they're taking insulin every time they eat
And
something.
that's their life basically for the
Will
rest of
be
their
on
lives.
insulin for the rest of their lives.
So
and
around what age do people develop the type 2 typically, or is that just varies?
type 2 or type 1?
The type 2.
Listen, type 2 can be, sadly, we used to think of it when I first came back from I'm proud to be Bermudian, came back from training and as a young registered dietitian and worked at the hospital, and we would consider even then in my training at university, it was adult onset type 2 diabetes, or you used to think it was when you got older or your grandparents had type 2 diabetes. But what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 decades is that I look after teenagers, young 13, 14, 15-year-olds with type 2 diabetes, and sometimes even younger, 9 or 10 years old. So type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle. Again, in almost every case, in the case of a young person diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they have a very strong family history, usually parents and grandparents.
Right.
And so you do tend to see that. But type 2 diabetes are young people. You can be in your 20s, you can be in your 30s, you can be in your 40s. Really isn't. And it is still probably, over the age of 55 and 65, 1 out of 3 people in Bermuda have type 2 diabetes. So incidence of it will increase as we get older.
Got you.
But the screening for it is so important. Go to your doctor, get a fasting glucose done as part of your annual physical, particularly if you know there's a strong family history of diabetes.
Okay.
That's where the walk comes in for type 2 diabetes, right?
Well, that's what
So,
I was gonna say is, so out of the preventative things that people can do, staying active, is that number one on the list, or
Huge. I mean, is that I'm sitting here.
diet would be number one.
Nutrition,
Okay.
exactly. So lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, 100% modifying in terms of prevention of type 2 diabetes. It really is lifestyle modification, and by that I mean really carefully, because I'm really sensitive to the fact that people shouldn't be blaming themselves then if they develop diabetes and looking at themselves and thinking, oh, if I did that, or if I only did that. So, but what we're saying is, once diagnosed, what you potentially have if you modify some dietary factors will be huge in terms of your success. And in the last 5 to 10 years, what I've seen is actually the potential to reverse type 2 diabetes. It's been documented that with, really, really committed lifestyle modifications, you can potentially, particularly for people who are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes early on, people, if you've had it for 20, 25 years, there are already significant changes in your beta cells in your pancreas. But if we can catch it early, there really is. And this is what we didn't have to give that hope to people early on.
Right.
80%, I'd say, they said it's this 80-20 rule, and it probably is. 70-80% of the nutrition and of the choices that you're making with the foods that we're eating, and that other 20-30% is physical activity. Every time you move your muscle, walking, swimming, kayaking, cycling.
It's like simple as choosing a non-sugary drink.
Yeah.
Over the sugary
Over
drink
the sugary
can
one,
make
yeah.
a huge difference in your week.
So sugar sweetened beverages are an intense source of concentrated carbohydrate that your body just, if you're not Floridian cycling around the island 16 times and you've got 80 grams of sugar in a 20-ounce bottle of drink, you're not likely to burn that off. And you're going to store that as fat in and around your organs, which creates that kind of potential for insulin resistance.
So, curious question I have for you guys. Do you feel that the sugar tax that was implemented recently, did that help us in this situation of diabetes, or has it just made the situation worse because people are still consuming, but now it's more expensive and it's like you got double the problem? Or
yeah, I obviously I sit on both sides of that fence in a way, because I'm in the grocery industry, and I know that the sugar tax impacted way more than it should have, and certainly when the sugar tax was implemented, there was already a decline in the sales of those items that it was intended to affect.
Gotcha.
That decline had started 5 or 6 years before the sugar tax was implemented, maybe even 10 years before. So if you're looking at sodas and things of that nature, that market had already started its decline.
Right.
People had become more educated. With
there's more information out there. Exactly.
And I think the history of it, if we look at in my world too, going to conferences, the history of sugar taxes were designed, particularly in Mexico, Finland, England, UK, that looked at it, and they really did become an SSB, sugar sweetened beverage tax. A lot of it really isolated the sugar sweetened beverage because it didn't have any nutritive value. In the beginning, if you take a can of soda or pop, there's glucose and water in that. There isn't, when it started to become more complicated when you involve other food items, but I think the idea of a progressive tax or another regressive tax where somebody could say, listen, I'm being nudged in the right direction to make a choice here, where countries thought we're going to, and even in the UK, for example, the way they did it was encouraging companies that made sugar sweetened beverages to reformulate their drinks,
and
so
that's
there
exactly
was
what
less
they
sugar
did. Yeah,
per
you
serving.
can't even get a regular can of Coke or something
Ribena and
in London,
Lucozade in the UK got actually reformulated, and
Yeah.
what happened then? They sent all those drinks to to the rest of the world and sold it to everybody else.
You guys drink that
Right.
stuff.
So when you've really got to look at a sugar tax and make it meaningful, and because I think what we in public health are looking at is you've got one chance for a buy-in for people to make
Right.
decisions and public public health choices. And as Zach said, we were already getting the message out there,
Yeah.
and perhaps there was a bit of a, in the way in which you do it has to be sensitively done so that you have people's attention, they know why they're doing it, and they know what the benefit is. And I think there were some blurred lines in terms of the way it was rolled out.
That was why I asked the question, right? I was, just curious to get your opinions on that, because
the
did seem.
government tried to unblur the lines more recently when they adjusted the sugar tax here and there for certain items. So
Gotcha.
I think it's less than 5 grams of sugar in a beverage
Yeah.
has a different percentage than a can of soda. That
Got you.
has
Got you.
70 grams of sugar, right?
There's a big difference between, people don't have to choose to buy that. You can go into the shop and pick up lots of items which have carbohydrates in them. And it, to me, as an educator, and Zach knows, it's about carbohydrate. The education is much more intense than that. And we have, the government, we've had opportunity to sit on lots of government committees. I have done the Bermuda strategy, and we're very involved in making sure that the messages get out there. But you have to get people's buy-in, because anybody can go in with money into the store and figure how you're going to spend that money. But it's based on what you know, and then your choice is going to be with the education and the information that you have.
It would be nice to be able to track the money too, right? See where that went and how it's being spent
exactly.
to help.
Is it going back to programs like
That's the question.
Diabetes Association?
Nobody really knows, right?
So we're a standalone. We are really have a unique model in the Bermuda Diabetes Association over on Dundonald Street and Prince Street. Where we hang out, right? Back at on, almost coming out Dundonald Street on the corner of Princess Street, walkable for the bus stop for anybody that comes to us, and access in town. And we have a full service pharmacy in there.
Okay.
But we have our education center there. So we're designed to do. We have classes I'm teaching tonight on healthy nutrition, and we have a program which many charities don't know about, that supports our client assistant program. Our CAP program ensures that no patient in Bermuda goes without medication, education, tools, or anything that they need to live well with diabetes.
Got you. That's
and
good.
so we have, a formulary will cover someone's without insurance. Obviously, we went through a lot during COVID and supporting people who weren't working. And just, if you don't have insulin for a few months, or if you're off your diabetes medications alongside your hypertension medications, you're at huge risk for a stroke or a heart attack. So we want to make sure that not through lack of underinsurance, if you're underinsured or uninsured, that we have a program that prevents. So kind of coming in donations. We're obviously a charity. We also have obviously a model in our pharmacy which can cover salaries and the programs that we do, that we offer for free, and that we counsel and can give people support in the community in this way.
Okay. So it seems like you're doing a lot. I mean, with 8,000 estimated Bermudians affected, that keeps you very, very busy.
I think
that's diagnosed type 2. That's not even pre-diabetes.
Oh, that's kind of exactly. That's how many people in our community are affected. If we're 13% more than that, I think last year I had 1,300 patient visits in the year, and we do classes, and I do individual counseling, and where we can, we get out to a community. We're not outside, obviously our limited only by the resources we have. But something like this, our community partnership with Lindo's, which we've been so proud of for so long, it helps us. Lindo's coming behind us helps.
Right.
If you just hear us on the radio and you're like, let me get out for a walk, or let me go and do this, and you don't know, Jack and I have always thought with radio and thinking somebody might just hear something one day which triggers one choice. You all have a choice when we wake up in the morning. Everybody's got to eat three meals a day, and we've got a choice as to whether you stop for work on your way home from work and walk on the beach, or you go for a walk. That we have choices, and if something that you've heard that there's, hey, Lindo's is behind the Diabetes Association, this must be something we can get behind as a community. Absolutely. Because we can't do it on our own. We really, it is a community.
This girl's busy, Like, I don't know. She's very, very busy.
Yeah, well, I can tell.
I don't know how she has time to watch her beloved Arsenal. But
oh, come on. I certainly have a chance to watch it on Sunday morning.
1,300 patients last year. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is. But
Cup
I mean,
of tea and then a good Arsenal game keeps me going when we do what we did.
And I know from personal experience with family members just how committed that she is, and how invaluable she is as a resource to the island. So
right.
It's amazing. So
it all comes together to the event that brings more awareness, brings people together.
It does,
and it's part proceeds go towards your association, the Bermuda Diabetes Association.
Yeah.
So it's all for a good cause.
And I think proud of that, that I have had the platform. Zach knows that, that through the Diabetes Association, everybody has access to education through where education to me, it doesn't matter if you have top notch insurance or you have no insurance. And my commitment in terms of delivering that education and staying updated. I'm off to a conference in April. I go to at least one or two conferences a year, making sure that what is going around in diabetes world, technology, medication wise, we bring it back here. And then it's our responsibility. Last year, we had a phenomenal speaker come in, probably one of the top speakers in diabetes endocrinology on this side of the hemisphere. And she came down and did a presentation to our GPs, because I want to make sure when GPs are referring patients to me that they know that those medications, we've got better ones now, we've got updated, particularly since the pandemic. I think lack of there's not so many medical directors coming down here and giving talks and getting those carbon footprints. People aren't flying around so much. So if I want to make sure that our local community stays up to date, because the GPs and the private practice needs to know what's happening. So that's another element of ours. So if we have funds from Lindo, our funds can come to bringing in a speaker, and they can come to doing all kinds of things. But at every level, we want to make sure that our community is informed and educated. And last year, I think, and Zach and I haven't really sort of talked about this because it happened since the walk, but one of the things we're really proud of is that we had a diabetes stigma campaign. We had a labels campaign, we called it. I don't know if you saw it, was on the YouTube, and we had a couple of people talking about what living with diabetes felt like mentally,
Right.
kind of, because there's an element too that people don't talk about living well. When I've for years come on radio, you bring somebody on radio with you to talk about their diabetes journey, many people won't come because they don't want people to know that they've had diabetes. It's
Right.
and we had conversations with me in the street. People said, I don't think diabetes has a stigma to it. Well, there is a stigma to it. And if it is a challenge or an obstacle to people getting self-care, then that's a problem. We need to address it. And around the world, Diabetes UK, Diabetes Canada, we're thinking about this diabetes stigma, and it is a diabetes distress, a burnout, a kind of, but also there should be no shame. There should be nothing but support in terms of giving that to people. People come out and say, I've had open heart surgery, or, I fractured my leg in 3 places and I'm doing really well right now. But people don't really tend to put that same platform on diabetes and say, I got diabetes diagnosed 2 years ago, and I've done this and I've done that with that. There is an element of, we want that community awareness to challenge your own ideas and perceptions and be supportive and non-judgmental in that way. And that was a campaign that, again, we took some money that we had as a sponsorship and we threw it into a campaign, and people really, really grateful to be
That's good.
resonating with them. So, we'll come at it at a clinical way, we'll come at it a GP way, we've come at it from mental health and that burden. And then, as Zach says, I'll go into a school with a newly diagnosed child and make sure that teacher knows how to support that child in that classroom.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a really, really good point, because when people do go through something like that, and you get, let's say you get the news you've been diagnosed, and now there's so many different things going through that's affecting your mental, as you said, your
100%.
mental health, that people probably don't even recognize or realize, that now compounds the issue
Yeah.
and makes it even harder for that individual to deal with, what they've just learned about themselves,
So
right?
here's the support. As Zach says, a sea of T-shirts in the Lindo's parking lot, and you've all got support. That we've had families of children with type 1 diabetes band together, cousins, grannies, aunties, uncles. Anybody comes out and supports that family. We're going to get families out this year. We want to get communities out. We want to get corporate groups out. We want to get church groups out. We want to get school groups out. This is get behind the whole community, because our little tagline this year is, these feet were made for walking. Don't we all feel better
like
when
that.
we go walking? These feet were made for walking. That's just what they do. So I ain't going to sing, because
Yeah,
Zach's heard me
I was
sing.
about to say.
It is not going to break out in song right here.
My eyebrows were raised a bit there.
There's two
I was
things.
waiting for it.
Zach and I have, friendship for years, but there's
I
she
like the
don't
reggae
run
version.
and she don't run and she don't sing. So we'll leave it at that.
So how do people get in touch with you, and what's your contact information? The best way, is it social media? Is it
We have we had
Website, phone?
phenomenal built up a strong social media presence on Instagram and on Facebook. Bermuda Diabetes Association. Education at diabetes.bm is my email. Very responsive to people that want more from us. We're always looking to hear what we put on programs, we provide services, but it's always interesting to hear what people need from us, and we want to listen to what people have. But I think coming out and supporting in this walk, it's probably one of the days, if we think about what we need as health educators and health providers, to not to not have our own burnout in a sense. I just need to come on this walk, get on the bandwagon with Zach as we're doing for the next few weeks, and then come down to Lindo's on Sunday, and my teacup is fully charged for the next 12 months when I see,
Yeah.
and feel that environment as we all walk down from Lindo's to Lindo's.
Yeah. It works out.
All right.
Yeah. March 9th. Number
Awesome.
pickup is March 8th.
So we used to, Zach and I would go on the radio and be bantering about whether it was the night the clocks go back, and it was usually, we've had some grim weather days, and we've had some put your woolly caps on and
It's always-
but
it's
it's going
always
to
a
be good
beautiful
this
day.
year. It's
That's
going to
right.
be great. It's
Always.
going to be a beautiful day. There's water stops. There's great tremendous support along the route, and I think usually kicks off around 8:30 in the morning, don't we?
It kicks off 8:30, and the walkers will kick off at 8:35. Correct.
Yeah. And then
So-
we the Bermuda Diabetes, we take on kind of, with the support that Zach gives us, we will take on the practicalities of organizing a pickup day the day before.
Gotcha.
So Saturday this year, we've secured the Jack King building in the Botanical Gardens, and we'll probably, watch this space for confirmation of time. It'll probably be the morning, somewhere between 9 and 12, but we will confirm that time on our social media for coming along, picking up fabulous goodie bags that Linders get support from their suppliers from and sends along to us. 1,000 goodie bags we're going to have this year.
Yep. Yep.
We want to get over. We have, for the last few years post pandemic, when everybody did their little virtual walks, we've been in person 2 years now. Back in walks on the street.
Yes.
2
Yeah.
years.
At least 2 years. Yeah. It's hard to. Yeah. COVID years are funny years. Exactly.
And back in the
They're-
day,
they're
didn't we,
fuzzy, don't worry.
Fuzzy. We didn't know,
We don't
like
even
what,
want to
when,
talk about
where.
those.
But pre that, I mean, Zach and I, Sarah, about those years of, we had 40, we had huge numbers for that
Yeah.
Lindo's walk, 2007,
Yeah.
2008, kind of
Yeah.
in and around 2009.
There was more
numbers.
people on the island, so obviously
Yeah.
you'd have more. But it was amazing to see last year. Sarah and I are always, oh, it's only 800, or oh, there's only
Our
so many.
meetings are
And
so
then-
last
then
minute,
to
right?
have, 1,000 people on the day was terrific.
That's tremendous.
So, yeah.
That's
We wanted
tremendous.
1,000, and we broke 1,000 last year, and so
Yes.
we want to go higher this year. In fact, I think we've ordered 1,400 t-shirts.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll get there, and that definitely, appreciate you stopping by Irie 98 and us helping to spread the word and do what we can. Like I said, I'm looking forward to doing it. I'm going to sign up and I see how many people I can get on the team. Every time I say let's go do a race or a run, everyone just gives me these side eyes. Nobody wants to do it with me.
Well,
So-
this one here, they could sign up and walk, right?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So
They can say,
some-
"Off you go, man."
They
You-
don't.
you
They don't
run."
have to go even the whole route that you're going. They could just do the walk
Exactly,
route.
exactly. So I'm gonna get my co-host from the morning show. I'm gonna get Naomi and Marky T involved. We're gonna talk to Teddy. We'll get Teddy involved too because he stiffed me on the last one. I'm not gonna let him let that go. He can't.
There's even we're having a meet me halfway walk this year.
Okay.
So if you don't think you can do the 4 miles from Lindo's Family Foods up Brighton Hill to Lindo's Devonshire, you can start at Botanical Gardens and walk down. It's going to be the same price to sign up, mind you.
Yeah, you can have a
But-
T-shirt and get your goodie bag. But where this came from, we have a peer support group of people living with diabetes, and so for a lot of people with health challenges, they really want to be a part of it and they want to participate in the
But
Lindos.
it's just a
Lindos.
little bit
But
too
that
much.
would be too much. So we said,
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah,
We
yeah.
want your participation. Opposite from Camden, down there on Botanical Gardens, just jump in with us, meet us halfway, meet us in the middle,
That's
and just walk that last stretch. Because what I was saying to you about grabbing your friends and grabbing your coworkers that come on the walk with us, the feeling at the end of the walk when you make it up Brighton Hill or you've come down that run, underneath the parking lot, there's camaraderie in there. It's like a big party. We've got an MC, we've got prizes being given
Yeah.
out, and there's hot chocolate and a back rub and some bananas and some health, and I picked up some Redoxon vitamin C tablets or some
Yeah.
Tide things. So there's a lots of vendors there, and it's a real people stay and mingle. And how was the walk? And it's usually a beautiful day. You also have to probably get picked up because the logistics of starting in
right.
Lindo's in Warwick and finishing in Devonshire means somebody from the Fam Jam's got to come pick you up
You
that
gotta
day
sort
to
out
Devonshire.
logistics.
So while you're there, have a cup of coffee, hot chocolate, some water, rehydrate, get your banana, get your carbs back on board. And it's a great atmosphere up there. So people, that idea of meet us in the middle, come in and experience the atmosphere. And for a lot of people, even with chronic conditions or gone through something, just diagnosis, or maybe they've got secondary issues with hypertension, or recently, had surgery, you can get there and meet us halfway and just come along with some of your friends. So some of the people are really looking forward to just a participation. And that's what this event is all about: participating, some more supporting in community. And as I said, thank you for having us. We are internally grateful to the partnership and the journey that we've been on.
Yeah.
Ain't going to stop anytime soon.
RaceTheWorld.com, March 9th.
Don't be late.
That's
Don't be
right.
late signing up.
right.
Don't give Zach and I that stress the week before.
That's right.
Checking our numbers every 5 minutes on the phone. How many people have signed up today?
Yeah. So go sign up right now as you hear this, and
grab a few others.
That's right.
yes, absolutely,
Grab
absolutely.
at least 10 others.
Well, Sarah and Zach, thank you so much for stopping by Irie 98.
Thanks,
Is there
Rusty.
anything else did we miss anything? Are we forgetting anything, or is that pretty
No,
much?
look,
Just follow our social medias. We're going to have a lot coming down the road. Lindo's web, your Facebook page, our Facebook page, our Instagram page. We're going to get, a lot of media coverage out there leading up to it. So we keep reminding people week by week.
Absolutely. And 1,400 is the goal this year.
I did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
come out and support the amazing charity that Bermuda Diabetes is, because they are extremely important to our community.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And if you want this conversation and more conversations like this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to us on YouTube, and look out for more great things in our community. It's Irie 98, Rusty G signing out, Sarah signing out, Zach signing out. Have a great day.